a show about death.
Hello, everybody. How you doing today? It's good to see you all. Welcome, President's Club members, season ticket holders, and all of the other undead we've got lurking out there. Am I unmuted? Yes, I'm unmuted. Fantastic. Good to see you all, and welcome to Halloween in Hollywood, our virtual party. I'll be your host tonight. My name is Benny, and it's lovely to be here with you all, and we're going to bring you the perfect mix of spooky delights from the worlds of Broadway, Hollywood, and our own little world right here at the intersection of Hollywood and terrifying the Hollywood Pantages Theater. Our entire family, living and dead, at Broadway and Hollywood, want to thank you all for being here with us tonight. We're going to have a fantastic time. And as you can all plainly see, I am already getting into the Halloween spirit by dressing up as one of my favorite Broadway icons. Can anybody out there guess who I'm dressed as? Hello? Yep, you guessed it. I'm dressed as Mama Rose from Gypsy. Thank you very much. I had a dream about you, Beetlejuice. What can I say? You gotta love stage moms. They're so devoted and sometimes just a little bit scary. But everybody here at Broadway and Hollywood wish that we could all be together right now, telling ghost stories around the fire in the lobby of the theater, roasting marshmallows, even though we don't have a fireplace or marshmallows. And I'll tell you, we just can't wait to be all back together again. It's gonna happen soon, we hope. But we're here now. We're here together. That's the important thing. And we're gonna have one hell of a time, everybody. So please sit back and relax and let's get this party started. Now, first up, it's time to invite some additional ghosts to our party. So it's time to wake the undead and bring forth our panel of ghouls. Let me admit them all. Come on, here we go. Thank you, Zoom. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the party. How are y'all doing today out there? Please feel free to unmute yourselves. Let me unmute you all. There we go. Unmute, 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 and unmute. How y'all doing out there? Welcome to, can you all hear me?
Yes, hello.
Yes, thank you. Talk back. How y'all doing? Good to see you all. Well, welcome all you ghosties. Hey, how you doing today, everybody? Welcome to the abyss that is Broadway in Hollywood. Now, let's get this party going. It's time for a round of introductions, everybody. Our first storyteller is an actor, arts educator, and a Broadway history lover, and the creator of Broadway Up Close walking tours that's been around since 2010. It's now grown to include 6 different in-person tour experiences, a gift shop online and in Times Square, and now, if you can believe it, virtual tour experiences. Everyone, please welcome Tim Dolan.
Whoa!
Thank you for joining us today, Tim. Good to have you.
Hello.
Hello. Our second storyteller is a person who is near and dear to all of our hearts, beating and non-beating, at Hollywood Pantages Theater. He's a longtime theater producer, and from 1983 to 1990, transformed the Long Beach Civic Light Opera into one of the most respected theater companies in the country. He joined the Nederland organization in 1990, and that's our home, of course, and served as our general manager for many years. And now, serving as general manager emeritus, he's a treasure trove of many Pantages memories and has a good handful of ghost stories. Please, everybody, give it up for Marty Wiviet.
Whoa!
Thank you. And I can hear you all clapping out there, attendees. I can hear you, I promise you. Marty, good to have you. Thank you so much for being here tonight. And our third and fourth storytellers come to us from the Los Angeles Conservancy. Alex has been the program coordinator at the Conservancy for the past 3 years. He helps run their tour program and other educational events. And Eric is an LA historian extraordinaire, an urban anthropologist, if you will. This dynamic duo, they all work together to bring some fascinating stories about our city to public in a fantastic way. And tonight, we're going to explore the spookier stories that they tell at the Conservancy. Please welcome Alex and Shishian and Eric Linksweiler.
Yay!
Oh, thank you so much for being here. We're especially excited about your stories because there's so many fantastic stories around the downtown theaters and everything. We just can't wait. You know, we think Pantages has got ghost stories. We know you guys do too. So thank you so much for being here. And in case you're all wondering out there who our final mystery guest is, she is a citizen of Oz. She looks fantastic in green, as do I, as you can see. She is the person who makes all of our marketing magic for Broadway and Hollywood happen. Please welcome my fearless leader, our director of marketing, Amelia Heap. Amelia, how you doing?
Hi, everybody.
So I got to tell you, everybody, Amelia is going to be very instrumental in helping us catch up on all of the questions that you're all going to be asking in the Q&A and chat areas throughout the evening. In fact, Amelia has curated so many fantastic stories that we had to do an event like this. And as a matter of fact, Amelia, I understand that you've got some pretty amazing stories that you want to tell about the yesteryear of Tinseltown. So I'm going to toss it to you.
I'm going to set the stage, guys. Thank you so much for being here. This is our very first virtual event. So it's pretty exciting. We're going to share, obviously, you're going to hear some great stories tonight. Some are personal, some are obscure. They're all spooky. I'm going to kick things off with a couple of classics that I found in my research. Did you know that the Hollywood sign pictured on your screen now is haunted by the ghost of a struggling young actress from the 30s named Peg Entwistle? So Peg committed suicide by leaping to her death from the
suicide,
top
delicious.
of the H in 1932. She has
Leaped,
been
she
seen.
leaped from the H?
She leaped from the H.
H.
She leapt from the H, people. And, you know, if you're up, she's been seen many times. She's been sighted before, hikers and folks. So if you're ever up there and you see a woman in 1930s attire, it just might be Peg. Then there's silent film legend Rudolph Valentino, who after his untimely death in 1926, which resulted apparently in riots in New York City, he was at the ripe old age of 31, he became even better known as Hollywood's most active ghost, reportedly sighted in more than a dozen locations in the neighborhood, including the costume department of Paramount Pictures, which incidentally is across the street from the Hollywood Forever Cemetery, where he was laid to rest. And over the years, audiences at the TCL Chinese Theater have reported feeling ice cold blasts or shoulder taps. Is that you? Have one of you felt that before? Well, listen, I'm done. Are you guys ready for more? Because there's a lot coming on. There's a lot coming at you. You might want to grab a sweater, though, in case you get hit with a sudden blast of cold air. All right, Benny, back to you.
Thank you so much, Amelia. I really appreciate that. And I got to tell you, you thought that those were scary? Wait until you hear some of the stories we got coming up right now. Before we get going, we got to go over some ground rules, because what would a nice irreverent party be without some nice ground rules? So ground rule number 1 for tonight's party, there are no rules. Seriously, do whatever you want. If you're wearing a costume, fantastic. We can't see you, but put in the chat what you're dressed as. We're going to love it. But there are going to be actually a couple of rules. Rule number 1, and these are all fun rules, we promise you. They're going to be really easy to follow. Rule number 1, ask questions at any time. Use the Q&A function or use the chat feature, whether you're watching on YouTube or watching here on Zoom with us. There's a lot of you out there, and we're going to do our very best to sift through the questions and answer what we can. But just, you know, if you got a question that comes up during any of the presentations, or even if it's a question that has nothing to do with the stories and you just want to ask a random question about the theater and we can answer it, please do. That's one of the things that we love about these open houses when we get to have them, when we're all together, is answering your random questions. We love it. It's our lifeblood, truly. Next, we're going to be doing some fun trivia tonight, about 3 or 4 questions, Broadway, Halloween based. You're going to love them. As much as I wish we could say that we're giving away prizes, you're not getting any prizes for trivia questions, but you do get bragging rights, which for a Broadway theater lover, there's no better prize. So be ready to type in the fastest answers when those trivia questions come up. You're going to love the questions. And I think a lot of you out there are going to find them pretty obscure. So we'll see what y'all think. And lastly and finally, we are indeed going to be having a raffle at the end of today, at the very, very, very end of tonight's show, for 5 different Broadway themed packages. All the packages are identical, just so you all know. So you can win 1 of 5. But here's the kicker. You must be present in order to win the grand prize. Look, it's not your kid's piano or dance recital. You can't leave after your kid performs. You got to stay till the entire thing. But you're going to be thankful for it because you did, because we've got a pretty amazing prize package. Tell them what they won. Our Broadway themed raffle is going to include all of the following that you see right here: a treasure trove of everything from some of the best shows around, including Hamilton, Wicked, you name it, we've got it. But I will tell you this, if you think this prize package is amazing, you ain't seen nothing yet. Because included in every single one of these packages, you're going to get a beautiful glossy covered 85th anniversary souvenir book of Hollywood Pantages Theater, which features some of the most beautiful photography taken of the inside of our theater that you've ever seen. And if there's anything that we can give anybody living in 2020 is a gift from 2015. Because that's where we all like to be right now. If you want to see it. Oh my goodness, I can hear you all laughing. So who you are. Thank you so much. Okay, laughing over. Thank you all very much. So, thank you. So without further ado, let's get this party started. We've got almost too much show to fit into 1 hour. So we're gonna get going right now. First up, I want to bring forth our good friend Tim Dolan with Broadway Up Close to share some amazing Broadway ghost stories. Tim, how you doing out there, man?
I'm doing so good. How are you?
I'm doing fine, man. I put you in the big box. Amelia, I had you spotlighted for the longest time. I didn't even realize I did. Sorry about that. Tim, so we can't wait to hear your stories, man. It's all you.
Thank you. I don't know how I'm supposed to follow up that joke, but I'm gonna try. I'm really gonna try. My name is Tim Dolan. I'm an actor and the owner of Broadway Up Close walking tours in New York City. As an actor, we have lots of time between shows or waiting for our next gig to start. You all think that we all just become waiters, but the cliche exists because we have these other odd jobs. So 10 years ago, I said holding a tray doesn't interest me. I'm the most Irish person you've ever met in your entire life. My favorite color is green. And so 10 years ago, I stood in Times Square. I put on a green shirt and I said, I'm going to see if I can convince someone to give me all of their money. And I'm going to tell you all the weird things about our industry, our theaters, and our weird theatrical lives. And so I created this thing called Broadway Up Close. So today I'm going to give you a little piece of one of the tours that we do, which is called our Ghost Light Tour. And I'm going to walk you through kind of the superstition of the ghost light, as well as one of my favorite haunted theaters. If you have questions, as Benny, our host at the most, said, feel free if you're on Zoom to drop them in Zoom and we'll kind of weave those in. Or if you're on YouTube, our Citizen of Oz, of course, as she said, we'll pick those up and we'll weave it all together. So the ghost light. Are you all, you're all, I'm sure, very savvy theater goers. And so the ghost light, I'm sure you've heard of. If you haven't, the ghost light you should be able to see on your screen here is a light that sits center stage in every professional theater in America. Certainly our 41 Broadway theaters, and of course, we believe almost every theater in America. And the light is put center stage, and it's the only light left on at night, and it's supposed to keep all the ghosts and spirits away from the stage and keep the stage sacred for us insane, superstitious actors and performers. Welcome to our lives. The question we get asked the most now that we're in the middle of a Broadway shutdown and a global pandemic is, are all the ghost lights still lit on Broadway? And the answer is yes. All 41 that we know of, I'll say 40, but technically 41 are still lit. And that is the only light that is kind of, I guess, the only light lit on Broadway right now, which is really sad, but welcome to our global pandemic lives. So the theater we're going to talk about today is one of my favorite. It's the second oldest. I want to show you what it looks like today. You should be able to see that now. This theater, the New Amsterdam, is our second oldest. It was built in 1903. It's been there 117 years. It's also our skinniest Broadway theater, and it seats 1,700 people. And so while you look at the front facade of that building, I want you to imagine 1,700 people squeezing into that little entrance. Most people don't know you're entering on 42nd Street because that's the street you've heard of. They wrote a famous musical about it. It's very fancy. You enter on 42nd Street because you feel great, and that's fancy, but they built the entire theater an entire city block away on 41st Street because it was cheaper land. So they build the entire theater. They build one skinny entrance that goes all the way through to 42nd Street, and then you show up looking fancy, and you walk one entire city block through the lobby to an entire city block street a block away. And this has never occurred to you because they've distracted you. How they distract you is they line both sides of the lobby with mirrors. You're dressed up, you're feeling pretty good. You're so busy looking at how good you look in that mirror, you don't realize you're walking an entire city block. And they use your vanity against you. They've used it against you for 117 years. It's worked perfectly. And the thing we find out about humans is that we're all still obsessed with ourselves. It works perfectly. Let's go back in time, which is my favorite thing to do on our tours. Let's look at what the theater looked like 117 years ago when it opened. So you'll notice, you should notice, almost the exact same building. A spoiler: Aladdin wasn't there in 1903. The Sephora was not original. And so you see in this photo, one of my favorites, you see the entire building, the brown building with the windows behind it, which is on 41st, of course, but it looks very fancy on 42nd. The entrance, as we zoom in, the entire original entrance to the building, here's the original facade that you see there. And the original facade, you'll notice all of the ornamentation around it. All of that was chiseled away in the 1930s when the theater became a movie theater. They chiseled everything away, and the only thing left is that inset metal and the inset glass that's there. Now, the most famous show, which leads into our spooky ghost sightings, the most famous show that played the theater is a show that I'm sure you've heard of. It's called Florence Ziegfeld's Ziegfeld Follies. The Follies, to me, is like Saturday Night Live meets a Las Vegas show meets the Radio City Rockettes, all in one 3-hour show. My favorite Follies ever, 1919, one chorus girl wearing a costume of pearls covering her entire body. And in this very slippery, very beautiful costume, she rode a live ostrich around the stage for 2 minutes. And I always say, like, I think Wicked's good. I just think it's like missing that like 2-minute ostrich cross in the middle of Act One. I think is really what all shows are missing. So you'll join me, I hope, in my petition to get ostriches added to every Broadway show when we're back. I'll pass it around in the chat after. Please join me. So the Follies runs for 20 years. In the early 30s, it closes. The theater had a very hard time getting the show to run into the building. It's now 1952. It's an empty 1,700 seat theater. Center stage is one skinny little ghost light, and the night watchman is watching over the building. And he says, this night, I'm tinkering around center stage next to the ghost light, and I hear the clicking of heels walk up behind me. And he said, I turn around, and he said it was the most beautiful woman I'd ever seen in my life. Head to toe, a green and gold beaded dress down to the floor. Shooting across her chest was this sash that said OLIVE, olive. And in her right hand, she was clutching this blue glass bottle. And he said, I'm looking at this woman like, what is all this? And as he describes it, she flirted with him a little bit. She shrugged her shoulder, she winked, she blew him a little kiss, she waved. She turned around, she took 5 steps away and vanished. He said, I'd never seen anything like that in my life. I got out of that theater as fast as humanly possible. I ran home. I started describing everything to my 2 friends. And the one friend smiled when he mentioned the sash. And he says, why are you smiling? Have you heard of that? And he says, the girls who used to dance at this theater, the Follies girls, are just like the Radio City Rockettes, all of them identical down the line. So Florence Ziegfeld, many times, he wanted the girls to have their own energy. And so the curtain would go up and they would each wear sashes with their name on it. So the curtain would go up. There's Courtney, there's Mary, there's Julie, there's Olive. So the roommate said, let's go and see if there was ever an Olive in the Follies. So the next day they go, they're flipping through stacks of old photos of all the women who had done the Follies through the years. And they flip a photo, and staring back at him was an identical physical match to the girl he saw. And the true test, he said, what was her name? And this is the photo they find. The caption below the photo had 2 words, and those 2 words were Olive Thomas. Olive was in the Follies for 5 years, 1915 to 1920. She was not very well liked. She got to do all the modeling, all the posters, all the publicity. Every other girl was jealous of her and hated her for that. One guy loved her, which is why she got picked for everything. His name was Florence Ziegfeld of the Ziegfeld Follies. The problem was he was married, so it didn't go over too well with his wife. You know his wife, you just don't know you know his wife maybe. His wife was Billie Burke, Glinda the Good Witch. So she was, needless to say, like not so happy, not the least favorite person, not the most famous person. So now by 1920, Olive is married to an actor named Jack Pickford. Maybe you've heard of his sister. Mary Pickford was Olive's sister-in-law. The 2 of them in this photo, you see, they get on a cruise, they're getting on the ship, and they go to Paris for vacation. 20 days after this photo is taken, Jack wakes up in their hotel, the Ritz Hotel in Paris. And he wakes up and he looks around the room, and there's no Olive in the room with him. He goes into the bathroom and finds Olive's body laid out dead on the bathroom floor. In the middle of the night, she had committed suicide by ingesting poison. And when they found the body, the poison came in this little blue glass bottle sitting next to her head. 1952 is the first time she was ever seen. There's been one sighting of her every 8 to 10 years. So we say like once per decade is she seen. She's never been seen by a woman. She only appears to gentlemen, and she's very flirtatious every time. The last eyewitness account was 2006 during Mary Poppins, which means we're due for a new sighting anytime now. We're insane. We're superstitious. Welcome to our lives. Anyone who walks into the building, the first thing you see when you walk into the theater as an actor or tech, the first thing you see is a picture of Olive on the wall. And you have to say hi to Olive on the way in. Good night, Olive, on the way out. Every year on her birthday, we get her a cake center stage and celebrate her birthday on October 20th. Sadly, this was, I think, the only year in a very long time that we haven't celebrated it because no one's been in the building. But this last week, she turned 126 years old and she looks so good for 126. When you walk in, you also get to see Olive. You just don't know you get to see Olive because you don't know to look for it. All the mirrors of the hallway have been replaced for audience members with photos of all the people who played there. And so as you walk down the hallway, you see Florence Ziegfeld, you see Fanny Brice, you see Harry Houdini, you see Will Rogers. And then the last photo on the right is a girl you've probably never heard of until today. And her name is Olive Thomas. And so here's my friend Courtney. Me and her went to see Aladdin. And I said, we have to pose next to Olive's photo and say hi. And Courtney actually is a Radio City Rockette. And so I was like, oh, this is actually perfect. This is like a version of you just circa 80, 90 years ago. And so there is our beautiful Rockette, truly just posing with Olive. It is one of the most haunted theaters in New York City. It's certainly one of my favorites, specifically because of the sighting of Olive. And so if Broadway is ever alive again, or when we reopen, you'll have to make sure that you say hi to Olive on your way in. I'm seeing your questions now. Someone saying she's beautiful. She is. I can't wait till they make like a Lifetime movie about Olive Thomas. And I think Jane Krakowski or Katie Holmes will play her, I think, look the most like her. Does anyone know why she died by suicide? Was something going on in her life? Lisa, she lived a crazy life. We think she lived what I'll call a Charlie Sheen life, like fast and loose and like lots of alcohol and lots of drugs and just like living her life. There's thoughts that maybe it was an accident, thought it was suicide. So the whole thing is, this was kind of your first celebrity scandal, but the details at times get sketchy. And your daughter just celebrated her 21st birthday on October 20th. Happy birthday. She shares the birthday with Olive. I love that. If you want to know more, we tomorrow, we're working with Playbill, is a company I love, of course, who makes all the playbills, has been around for forever. We're working with them doing virtual tours because, well, Broadway shut down and our lives are all over the place. And so as you see here, as our ghost with the most has put it up, you can join us tomorrow. We have our full Ghostlight tour. So it's a full hour. I talk a lot. So we usually go about hour 10. And that is, you can purchase tickets at playbill.com/selects. We have that. We have a couple other tours that are on the docket as well. And then we, in this time of our lives, because we're doing less tours, because our industry was really gutted, our tourism industry was kind of, destroyed with this whole thing. I own a gift shop in the middle of Times Square, which is closed, sadly. We have a 6-foot tall Broadway sign that's 150 light bulbs spelling out my favorite word in marquee letters, Broadway. You can see it there in our logo. So that is, our little gift shop and our little display. And when the shutdown happened, I realized this is an opportunity to make some of the weirdest, craziest, most intricate merchandise that's never been seen before. So if you go to our website, broadwayupclose.com/souvenirs, that has all of our online merchandise that is currently closed in Times Square available online, as well as all of our other in-house virtual tours. For this, our entire Ghostlight tour, I wrote a book, which is called our Ghostlight Tour. And so that souvenir book is available on our website, as well as our 10th anniversary product, which is a thing called the Broadway Passport. So my friend Adam, who's a set designer, sketched every single Broadway theater, and it has all the fun facts. And when you go and see a show, you pull out your little stamp and you mark which show you've seen where. And so it's one little travel log of all the shows you've seen on Broadway when you all make it from LA to here. I hope you've enjoyed my stories. This is fast and quick as we talk a lot. And I should tell you that if you join tonight, it doesn't apply to the tickets for the Playbill event, but for merchandise, if you put in Ghostlight 5, you'll get $5 off in our gift shop, which is my little gift to you. But again, that only applies to merchandise, not Playbill virtual tour tomorrow.
Oh, Tim, those are some amazing stories. Thank you very much. And we actually, before we move on, we got a question that came in about the Ghostlight tradition from Ray Davis. So you mentioned that the Ghostlight was already up when Olive was spotted the first time. The question is, do we know specifically how the Ghostlight tradition started?
I knew someone was going to ask this. So like a lot of our theater superstitions, I call them murky. Origins are murky at best. As close as I've gotten to, you don't care about the history of lighting, but I'll give it to you very quickly. We used candles up until 1816. From 1816 to 1878, we used gas lamps. And then, of course, Thomas Edison changes our lives with a little thing called the light bulb. And so in the gas light period of time in the 1800s, a lot of theaters, I shouldn't say a lot, a couple theaters burnt down in the middle of night, exploded from the buildup of gas in the lines. And we read some stories of somewhere in the Midwest, a couple theaters had the idea that if they leave one light center stage and let out just enough gas, that it'll alleviate the lines and maybe we won't have any other incidences. That seems to have worked. Why then we screw a light bulb into the gas lamp and keep it? That's where it gets murky. But you know, us theater people, safety, we don't want you to fall in the orchestra pit, and then we heap all of our superstition because we're insane. And that's why you are here tonight, because you're also probably a little theatrically insane. These are our lives.
We all go a little mad sometimes, Dim.
Correct.
What can I say? You know, I got to tell you, hearing some of these stories and some of the dastardly deeds. I mean, can you imagine if social media existed on June 4th, 1930, when the Pantages opened, or in the heyday of Broadway? I mean, it's just, you know, you were able to kind of get away with everything back then. Now you just can't get away with anything today. So it's just, you know, what would the hashtags be like back then? Like, you know, bully, you know, it's like, you know, those old timey words, you know, whatever, but it's all good. Well, Tim, thank you
hashtag
very
Great
much.
Depression. That's what it would be. Hashtag Prohibition. Can we drink yet?
Everybody, take one of Tim's tours. He is fantastic. You will have so much fun. It'll be like you're right back on Broadway. And next time you get to go to New York, my big goal is to meet Tim in person.
Absolutely.
You're incredible. I put and for those who asked, I put it in the chat. And then for our merchandise store, the code is Ghostlight5. And that is just BroadwayUpClose.com, as you see there, /souvenirs for those who are in the chat on Zoom.
And just a heads up, we're hoping that we're going to be able to communicate with everybody who's here to ask a couple of questions of how you liked it. We'll make sure that we do our very best to put little links to for Tim, for Eric, for Alex, for everybody, for the Pantages, etc. Any questions you have, we're going to try to do a recap and send you all everything. You all have been an amazing audience so far, but we got to move along. You know why? Because it is now time officially for our first trivia of the evening. Now, I saw, as well as all of our other panelists, a ton of people logging in nice and early to hear our Broadway music before we started. So, related to the music that we were playing, question number 1, everybody. The original Broadway cast of Sweeney Todd, the demon barber of Fleet Street, famously starred living legend and Broadway icon Angela Lansbury, who just recently had a birthday, as Mrs. Lovett, and Len Cariou in the title role of Sweeney. Now, during the show's original first national tour, the show was filmed in Los Angeles and aired. Who played the role of Sweeney Todd in that filmed version with Miss Lansbury? Put your answers in the chat. I know you all know this one. Anybody know this one? Do I see any activity in chat? Can y'all hear me?
Oh, we got Fred. Let's see, Fred Ribble, George Hearn.
Yes, absolutely.
Got it, Fred.
Congratulations. That's right, everybody. Hold on, let me advance the slide.
I knew
Oh,
we
there
could
he is.
count on
There he
you,
is,
Fred.
right there. Yeah, that's right, everybody. George Hearn famously played that role in the version that was filmed. Now, as a bonus question, what theater in Los Angeles was that show filmed at? It was not. We wish it was filmed at the Pantages. It was not the Pantages. It was not the Schubert. Nice guess, Cindy. Anybody else know where theater? It was not the Amundsen either, but so close. It was not filmed at the Amundsen. Anybody know? Yes, Lisa Lambert with the win. Congratulations. It was absolutely filmed at the Dorothy Chandler Pavilion when the recording came through in Los Angeles. So anyways, congratulations. So we got one more trivia question for you all. This is a fun one too. If you were, oh, I lost my place. There we are. So many of you who logged in early may have had the honor of listening to the song And Eve Was Weak from Carrie the musical as performed by the great late Marin Mazzie. who just left us about 2 years ago, unfortunately. Now, she performed the role of Margaret White in the 2012 off-Broadway revival of Carrie. Again, for bragging rights, who played the role of Margaret in the original 1988 Broadway production? Not Piper Laurie. There we go. We got Betty Buckley. Winner, winner, chicken dinner.
Oh,
That's right, everybody.
John Peterson and Nicole McKenzie. Thanks, guys.
It was indeed living legend, Betty Buckley. Absolutely. So there we are. Congratulations. That was the first trivia of the night. So we're going to move this party along right now, everybody, because it is now time to move from the East Coast and move ourselves way out west to our home right here at Hollywood Pantages Theater. I'd like to introduce you all once again to my very dear friend, Marty Wiviet, who's gonna be sharing with us some amazing ghost stories from Hollywood Pantages Theater. And Marty, thank you so much for joining us tonight. It's been a pleasure and an honor working with you all these years. Marty's been with the Nederlander and the Pantages since 1990. I started about 13 years later, and all of the puns and dad jokes you hear me say, it's because of this man right here. He taught me everything he knows. So Marty, thank you very much.
So Benny, just listening to Tim talking, here's a bit of trivia to add to that. In about 1996, I was in New York visiting with Jimmy Nederlander Sr., and he said, go and take a look at one of our theaters and see what you think you can do with it. And I walked into this, he said, we just bought it. I walked into this old theater and I was standing in the orchestra and I looked up through the hole in the roof of the ceiling and the rain was coming through. And as I stood there in the New Amsterdam Theater, and I thought, what is Jimmy gonna do with this wreck of a theater? And I went back and I said, all you can do is sell it. And he did. Disney bought it and revived 42nd Street. And then there, Tim, the rest is history. They put in the Lion King.
Marty, that's incredible.
Yeah, it was a Nederlander theater in the 90s.
And because of that rain and the hole in the roof, a tree grew in it. Disney found mushrooms and
Yep.
fungus on all the seats. That's crazy, Marty.
Yep.
Crazy.
Yeah, you've heard of a tree grows in Brooklyn? Well, a tree grows. It was wonderful. Okay, ghosts. We're talking about ghosts. And of
Absolutely.
course, the Pantages has ghosts. And I don't think I was a believer in ghosts for a long time. It'd be interesting to see in the chat room how many people believe in ghosts, because I do now. We had a receptionist at the theater, and her name was Tiffany. And for years she would say, oh no, I see the ghosts back there, and I see the ghosts up in the theater. And I said, well, tell me about them. She says, well, backstage, it's always, there's two ladies back there. I said, where? She says, well, back there in the steam tunnel. And we're looking at the steam tunnel now. And we call it the steam tunnel because you see those pipes there carry the steam from the boiler room to the heaters in the building. And it's a very spooky place because there's a lot of neon lights up there now, but there used to just be one little light bulb in that tunnel. And it was really very spooky. And she says, I see those ladies in the steam tunnel. And I said, anybody else see them? And she said, no, I'm always by myself. And I said, well, that's interesting. And I sort of thought, well, okay, she sees ghosts. And then during the reconstruction, when we were rebuilding the theater for The Lion King in 2000, I was backstage at this end of that steam tunnel at one point, and a plumber, I remember it's early in the morning, I can visualize him to this day. Short guy, sort of stout, heavy set. And he ran out of there, and it's a pun, but he was white as a ghost. And he said, do you know what I just saw? And I sort of remembered Tiffany's stories, and she described those ghosts. And I said, well, did you see two ladies back there dressed in 1940s like outfits? And he said, how did you know that? And I said, well, other people have seen them. And he ran out of the building. He wasn't working anymore that day. And I've heard since then from 2 or 3 other people who, when they say, do you know what I just saw? Now these 3 or 4 people who saw that Didn't know anyone else had seen anything. They'd never heard a description from anybody else. And yet, down to a T, those 3 or 4 people described exactly the same thing back at the end of that steam tunnel. That, at the end there, you can go into the dressing rooms. So that's where the actors are back there. So I'm guessing these ladies might have been actors. I'm not sure. You know, an actor sometimes say, boy, we died on stage tonight. Well, maybe those 2 actually did. And maybe that's why they're back there. I'm not sure. This is the boiler room, which connects to the steam tunnel, which makes all of that work in there. So those 2 ghosts are there. And I have a hunch that people who see them, they're always by themselves. So they can never poke somebody else and go, look at that. Did you see that? And I'm guessing that's how it works. And then Tiffany, she must have been receptive to ghosts, because she would always say to me, oh, well, there's another one in the theater. And I said, really? Where is that? She said, well, it's sort of up in the balcony, in the mezzanine up there. There's a ghost up there. And I said, you've seen him? She said, oh, yeah, I've seen that. And it's a guy. And I said, a man? I said, well, where do you see him? She said, well, sometimes when the theater's empty and just the ghost light is on, which we've heard about, she said, I like to go sit in the theater when I have lunch break because it's quiet and it's peaceful in there. She said, and one day I was sitting in the balcony, and if you're looking at the picture of the theater, it's, can we show where that is? Right there. That's where Tiffany was sitting, right in the balcony there. And she said, one day I was sitting there having my lunch, and the seat next to me, the cushion depleted. In other words, the cushion sank down as if someone was sitting there. And she said, I saw the faint image of a man in a suit. I said, really? She said, oh yeah, I saw that. And so everyone, I said, you ever see it again? She said, yeah, I've seen him 3 or 4 times. When I go in, I know the seat now. So I always go and I sit in the seat next to it. And maybe because I'm just there by myself and it's dark and there's nothing else going on, he will sit there. And whether he's waiting for a show to start, I'm not sure. But he was, maybe that was a patron who was unhappy with the show and wanted his money back, and he's sitting around waiting for a refund. I'm not sure. But those are the 2 ghosts that I know of that haunt the Pantages Theater.
I'm just convinced that there's so many sections of the theater that are just like incredibly haunted, Marty, because I feel like you and I have talked about this before, but I've been at the theater now over a decade, and a couple of times when I'm walking through those same tunnels, I feel like I can hear like a dog, like running behind me or running in front of me. And I can hear like its little nails on the floor, hear the collar and the tags jingling. And sometimes I even hear panting. And it's the weirdest thing because, you know, when you're in those old dilapidated buildings and it echoes in the walls, your mind plays tricks on you. But I've also heard stories of ushers that were closing up after a performance let out and turning off all the lights and walking in the lobbies by themselves, and someone sneaking up behind them and going, hey, so I can't tell if it's, you know,
well, you know, Benny, when the theater first opened, there were vaudeville shows there and movies. And you know, they what you call the horse ramp back there, you know what that is? Because they actually led horses down that ramp from the alleyway onto the stage. And there were lots of animals and dog acts in those vaudeville shows way back in the 30s when they'd have 8 acts in a movie. So you very well may have seen ever existed from an animal way back in those days.
If any of our season ticket holders are with us who've been at any of our in-person season ticket holder open houses over the last couple of years, let us know if you've seen that horse ramp, because that's, Amelia, agree with me?
Just posted in the chat, Benny. That's crazy. I just
really?
in the chat, the horse
Oh
ramp.
my goodness. Admittedly, I haven't been looking at the chat because,
All
you know.
good. It's all good.
Oh, great! But that's one of our favorite things to talk about, and these old vaudeville stories and the original films they used to show at the theater when it was a movie house, and the way they, you know, brought the every different generation that has lived through the life of the Pantages has their own set of ghost stories. And
In fact, another bit of trivia from that old age of the Pantages, when we did the renovation in 2000, the spotlight booth up there, there was a big walk-in safe up there that had never been opened. And we said, well, we've got to get rid of that area. We need a locksmith to come in and open that safe. And it was a big safe with a big door, as big as a door to a room. So you could walk in it, and they broke the safe open at the door, and we walked in there, and on a shelf in there was a film can, a big film can, big film. I don't know what it was. I think might have been like 16 millimeter, 8 millimeter, whatever existed.
Mhm.
And on the can, it said Disney, and there was the name of a cartoon. And our friends from Disney, obviously, were bringing Lion King into the building. So they were over at the building all during the construction. And I went up to one of the executives and I said, do you know what this is? He said, oh my God, that's the cartoon, that one of the first Disney cartoons that was shown at the Pantages when the Pantages first opened. And we don't have any copies of that. Can we have that?
oh my God.
They now, courtesy of breaking open that safe, have the film of the first Disney cartoon shown at the Pantages.
That's fantastic. And for anybody, when we get an opportunity to do open houses again in person in the months, years to come, etc., we'll make sure to bring out as many of those heirlooms that we have in our basement to show you. We have, I mean, we're like a time capsule in many parts of our building, right? Am I right, Marty?
Yep.
Original molds from the building, blueprints, everything. So we're going to do our very best to bring out all of that stuff for you all to see, whether virtually or whether in person one day. But Marty, you know what I think? I think Amelia, do you have any questions out there for Marty that have come through? Because I'm going to ask. I'm going to ask one.
It's just a lot of wows and what? Oh, what was the name of the cartoon, Marty? Do you remember the name of the cartoon?
No, I don't remember. That was 20 years.
No, we don't have that. We can ask our friends at Disney, see if we have any, if we can get any information on that.
A good question, though. Good question. So,
Yeah.
Marty, fantastic stories. And I got to tell you, I have one amazing ghost story to tell, and I'm going to save it for the very end, right before the raffle. But it has to do with a ghost that people saw during the renovation. And I'm going to share with all of you a fantastic photo of what it looked like when they were prepping to bring The Lion King in for its LA premiere 20 years ago. It's fantastic. Marty, thank you very much for that. Now, everybody, it's time for one more fantastic trivia question. So here we go. This here is a question for all you Broadway and film buffs. And once again, I hope you're listening to some of the music that was playing before, because here we go. The musical Little Shop of Horrors is based off of Roger Corman's original B-movie horror classic, The Little Shop of Horrors, which came out in 1960. Here's the question. Which high-profile Hollywood actor made his film debut in a small cameo role in this movie as a sadistic dental patient? Who knows this one? Steve Martin, Jack Nicholson for the win. Absolutely.
Layla.
Yep, nice.
Nice
right
work.
there. It was indeed Jack Nicholson in the role of Wilberforce. And of course, any of us who are familiar with the film version of the musical, that role was put into the film musical and was played by Bill Murray as Arthur Denton, and probably one of the funniest scenes in the movie. It's one of my favorite movies of all time.
Look at that handsome devil.
Right? Look at that.
Oof.
It's, you know, it's him from the eyes and the smile. That never leaves you, no matter how many decades go by. Well, ladies and everybody, here we go right here with the last set of ghost stories for the evening, courtesy of our dear friends at the Los Angeles Conservancy. How we all doing out there? Let me bring up Alex. Alex, thank you so much for joining us today. Eric, we're going to get to your story in just a moment. But Alex, I'd love to hear a little bit about the Los Angeles Conservancy and some of the work you all do.
Yeah, thank you. You know, when you said eyes and the smile, I knew that I was going to be next. So I really appreciate you giving me such a good introduction there. You know, I'm willing to bet that most of the people in this chat already know about the LA Conservancy, and everybody's here for the spooky. So I'm going to get through this very quickly. We are a historic preservation group here in LA County. And what we do is we work through education and we work through advocacy to try and preserve historically and culturally significant buildings here in LA. So we have a bunch of tours, we have a bunch of programs, and we work with developers and the city to make sure buildings are saved. So in a lot of ways, you could really say that without organizations like us, a lot of these ghosts would kind of be roaming around. They wouldn't have these sort of historic buildings to be in. And on our tours, I think some of our docents see a lot of stuff. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to send it over to Eric Linksweiler, who has been doing tours with us on Broadway for about 20 years now. And I know he has a lot of great stuff to say. So why don't you take it away, Eric?
Hey guys. Yeah, I've been giving tours with the Los Angeles Conservancy for a very long time, but I don't share these stories. We did a little pre-record just because I didn't know how long it would take me to get through these stories, and I had to pause just a few times for goosebumps. Let's just dive in. Go have fun.
Hey guys, my name is Eric Linksweiler, and I am a volunteer with the Los Angeles Conservancy. For the last 21 years, I have been giving tours of the Broadway Theater District for the Los Angeles Conservancy, but before that, I was a friend of the Orpheum Theater in downtown Los Angeles. The Friends of the Orpheum was a nonprofit group that helped maintain the theater before it was restored. We did things like have spookathons to raise money, watch over filming, and we also did a ghost tour. This ghost tour was very unique to me. I kind of had a chip on my shoulder and wasn't really a believer. We toured the Orpheum Theater, then the Tower Theater, and then the Palace Theater from 1911. Nothing happened at the other theaters, but the Palace Theater got a little spooky. As a volunteer, I was just there to make sure nothing crazy was going on and that these ghost hunters, which we had hired from Hollywood and the Queen Mary, were doing an entertaining job. I left the group for just a moment in order to go to the bathroom. So I went downstairs in the Palace Theater, and it got very cold. It's not a big deal, right? Just that temperature drop suddenly in the bathroom, in the basement, in a building that has no working air conditioning at that time. It's got to be explained. I washed my hands and went back upstairs, ignoring that temperature drop, and I found the group in the auditorium of the Palace Theater in the main aisle, the center aisle. And there was one of the ghost hunters at the bottom of that aisle actually talking to an empty chair. The guests were scattered about. A few of them were in the aisle. I was at the top of the aisle. And the ghost hunter was looking at that empty chair and asking it questions like, "Who are you? What are you doing here? And what year is it?" We heard nothing in reply, of course, but the ghost hunter later said that the answers that he was receiving were essentially, "You don't belong here. You don't belong here. You don't belong here." The ghost hunter, looking at that empty chair, looked up and then took a step back. And one by one, everybody in the aisle shifted with a chill. Each one of us, one at a time, felt that cold, icy cold breeze just walk right up the aisle past each and every one of us until it reached me and just walked right through me. Yeah, that was a chill. In fact, I'm getting goosebumps right now. Thinking about that, one at a time, each of us felt that cold breeze. Could that be explained? We went up onto the stage of the Palace Theater, and the Palace Theater stage is interesting. Great wood floor, but it has off on the right side, looking at the auditorium off on the right side, double level dressing rooms that looked over onto the stage itself. There was also a staircase that wrapped up and back to get from level to level. And it was all open to the stage. You can see the stage from there. I was really concerned over that cold breeze I'd been feeling, which I'd never quite felt before. And I stood on that stage and let everybody else kind of go backstage and under the stage, and I just had a moment to myself. I stood on that stage and I looked out into the auditorium, and I could actually see heads and shoulders out there. It was very dim lighting, and it wasn't a packed audience of ghosts or anything. That would be silly, no. This was just scattered. Just a head and shoulders, maybe one here, one there. Just still, head and shoulders, gray, nondescript, here and there in the seats. But the more I looked at those head and shoulders, the less I actually saw. You couldn't look directly at them, but they were there. And I turned to my right, and I saw a man bounding up those stairs to the dressing rooms, just skipping every other step and bounding up those stairs. And as he rounded the corner, I looked up to see him appear at the top of those stairs, and he didn't. He didn't appear at the top of the stairs. He just bounded and disappeared. It was this gray man in a hurry, and one of the ghost hunters was nearby and said, "Hey, are you okay?" And I looked at him and I said, a man just ran up those stairs. And he said, "Was it part of the group?" And no, that was not part of the group. It was a ghost. He looked at me and he smiled, and yeah, I was really taken aback by that. It doesn't seem like much. It really doesn't. I just had a couple of visual moments. That's all it was, visual moments. But I was intrigued enough that I called up those ghost hunters and paid to take a tour of the Vogue Theater in Hollywood. So I grabbed my brother Brandon and my best friend Sarah, and we three paid maybe $65, $75 each to go to this ghost hunters headquarters. They had been giving regular tours of the Vogue Theater and knew what was there. They basically told us in advance, this is what you're going to be experiencing, maybe. We were outside of the Vogue Theater, and they gave us a few toys, like a little electric clicker, like a little Star Trek tricorder type thing. And they also gave us dowsing rods. And you know what a dowsing rod is. It's those little rods that go back and forth, maybe point at something, maybe not. They also told us, and of course I never ever researched any of this, there was no Google back then to double check, but what they said was that they had the ghosts of children that had been burned in a fire. Before the area was known as Hollywood, it was from, I think, Prospect. There was also a projectionist who died in the projection room, who was protective of his equipment, they said. Don't touch the equipment. And they also said that there was a drug addict who died of an overdose somewhere nearby, and he was mean. Okay, so mischievous children, protective projectionist, and a mean drug addict ghost. Great. Our little group, probably 12 people or so, went into the theater, and we looked at the lobby, the auditorium. There was a little stage. We went behind the screen. We checked out some exit corridors, and then we made our way up the stairs, a curved staircase, to a landing before the men's room, women's room, and the projection booth. The projection booth had two entrances, and a bunch of us all of us were in the projection room. Some people were not taking this seriously, and I wanted to take it seriously. For a few folks, it was just fun date night to them, and I was kind of frustrated. Nothing at all was happening, nothing. So I grabbed Sarah and Brandon, and we left the projection room and went into that anteroom at the top of the stairs. The walls were painted black, the lighting was dim, and we were just chatting about the evening, and oh my gosh, it's such a waste of time, waste of money. Nothing's happening. We looked at our dowsing rods, holding our dowsing rods in our hands, and I realized that my dowsing rods and Sarah's were pointing in unison. No matter where we were in the room, these rods pointed to the back door of the projection room. It was freaky that these things all pointed to the exact same point, and me with a chip on my shoulder said, okay, I'm going to check this out. Either out of bravery or stupidity, I actually walked up to that door, that projection room door. The rods in my hands were pointing to me. And I stood there with my back to the projection room door. It was locked. And I just opened myself up to feel. What was I feeling? Could I sense something? Could I hear something, smell something? What was this spirit? Sarah and Brandon were at the other side of the room. They were looking at me like I was an idiot, and perhaps I was. In the middle of my back, I was smack pushed, shoved forward. I flew. So I went downstairs, leaving everybody upstairs. I went downstairs and I was in the main auditorium. I walked all the way down to the front. I stood on their little makeshift stage and I looked out into that audience, almost with a dare in my mind, and I thought about the Palace Theater when I could look into the audience and I saw occasionally a head and shoulders. And that's what I tried to do again. I stood on that stage, I looked into the dark auditorium, and I waited patiently, daringly. I wanted to see those heads and shoulders, maybe, but that auditorium was empty. I saw nothing. There was no head and shoulders in the audience. Except there was a moment. It was a head, chin, neck, shoulders, torso. This thing moved, flew right into my face. And in the time it took for me to refocus my eyes from far to right here, this gray thing that just lunged at me was gone. I was headbutted by a ghost.
Oh, what an incredible story.
Come on.
Eric,
Yeah.
you
Yes.
seriously know how to set a tone. Let me tell you. I thought, oh my God, you literally turned into James Spader telling that story. That was that was fantastic. Oh my goodness. Thank you so much for that. We had a question that came up related to pipe organs, mostly theater style with toy counters, from Barry Thomas, asking if any of the theaters had pipe organs in them when they opened. I actually want to take that one really quick on behalf of the Pantages. We never had the pipe organs finally installed, but anybody who's been inside the Pantages and has seen the two, what we call radio towers on house right and house left, those were the chambers that were originally created to house the big pipe organ pipes, but the organ itself was just never installed, but the housing for it was.
That was because of the Great Depression, right? It became
right.
too expensive.
Absolutely. I mean, truth be told, the Pantages was supposed to be a number of stories taller than it was, but right around the time of the Great Depression happened, they were a couple of months from, well, and shortly after that happened, they just said, well, I think 2 stories is plenty fine for a theater, and we're going to leave it at that. But Eric, that was a fantastic story. Thank you so much for sharing it with us.
And guys, if you think you've seen Eric, you probably have, because he's been volunteering for the Conservancy for a very long time. And before that, with the Friends of the Orpheum, right? Which was overseeing a lot of the theaters on Broadway here in LA. And then Eric's written some books. We'll make sure we get you that information. And Eric's also involved with the Museum of Neon. Right, Eric?
Yes.
Are
There's a
you
display behind you as well, by the way, speaking of neon, that looks great.
Yeah. Thanks. Yeah.
What
I
is
kinda
that behind
live
you?
with
What is that?
Up here, I've got a martini glass, and then behind me over here, I have a calaveras that came from an artist, Arturo Jaregui.
You're a fantastic curator, Eric. Thank you so much. Alex, I'm going to throw it back to you so you can give us a little bit of explanation of what we got on the screen right now for your 70s and beyond. You want to take it?
Perfect. Yeah, I got it. And thanks, Eric. I mean, that's probably the third time I've heard that now, and it's just as chilling as I think as the first time. I do. There is another question here in the chat I wanted to answer. So Patricia asked, what downtown theater did the LA Phil play during the 60s? So there was the Philharmonic Auditorium, also known as Hazard Pavilion, right off of Pershing Square there. So that's probably what you're thinking of. And then just I want to thank everybody in the chat saying that they've heard of us and that they're just happy to be a part of our group. And one person said they want last remaining seats at the Pantages. So I'll put that little earworm out there in the world. We have a lot of events going. We do virtual tours. So if you liked what you saw with Eric, we have many docents doing virtual tours of historic Los Angeles. We're also now doing in-person tours, very, very small groups. So if you and a very small group of your friends would like to take a tour of downtown, we'd love to have you do that. We're also having a big 70s turn 50 extravaganza this whole year. And so if you really love 70s architecture and you want to learn more about it, we're having our last final event on November 19th, and that's a virtual lecture. So come on down and we would love to have you. And you can always learn more about our events or just more about our advocacy efforts at laconservancy.org.
Fantastic organization. You all do fantastic work. Alex, Eric, thank you so much for all of that. It's fantastic.
So much. And I just want to give a quick hat tip out to my buddy, Sarah Lan, who's the education director there, who introduced me to Alex. And, you know, I just really appreciate all of you guys and what you're doing. It's really, really great. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, we got one more trivia question. All right, this is a really quick one. How many of you know who let me back up. What was the name of the aviation baron who owned Hollywood Pantages Theater for a brief period of time in the 1930s? Oh, I'm seeing answers. Oh, yes.
It was the 40s.
Did I say 30s? I meant the 40s. Sorry about that, everybody. I'm bad at
I believe
math.
it was 1949 to 1967.
Was indeed. And what can I say? I'm stuck in the 1930s, but you're absolutely right, Amelia. We've got, it was the man himself, Howard Hughes, right there, which leads me to that story I was referencing earlier, right toward the end of Marty's story. All right, I'm going to set the scene. I'm going to make it quick so we can get to our raffle. So it's 1999. This is what the stage of Hollywood Pantages looked like when we were doing the $10 million renovation to get ready for Disney's The Lion King. What you're looking at right there, that is how we got Pride Rock into the building and out of the floor. Gutted everything, replaced the entire deck, everything, scaffolding, as you can see from the very top of that photo right there. There was scaffolding all the way to the top of the interior of the auditorium. Looked like the Sistine Chapel. Here's the story I want to tell. Group of workers working in the scaffolding, and I want you to divert your attention from this center photo to the big photo that's in the back of your screen, all the way in the upper right side of the mezzanine, house right mezzanine, all the way at the top. There were a group of workers, about maybe a dozen workers, all working up in the scaffoldings, doing the gold leafing by hand. They turn around, and right around here, at the front of the stage where you see this scaffolding, they saw a man in a bowler hat and a trench coat, dressed like, definitely not dressed in 1990s attire. All of the workers gather amongst themselves and commiserate and say to themselves, who is this person? Who are you? I don't know who this is. Have you seen him before? Is that the foreman? No, it's not. They all turned around.
Hot, people.
It was hot. It was hot. So this is somebody, you know, dressed in a bowler hat and like what appeared to be a big wool trench coat, standing on the rafters. No safety equipment, no hat, no vest, nothing. All the workers, after they asked themselves, do we know who they are? They turned around to look at him and he was gone. Now, this was within a matter of seconds. It's not like you can egress by like throwing a curtain over yourself and just kind of running downstairs. There was no fast way of being able to leave where this person could have been. He just vanished. Every worker that was doing the renovation work that day dropped their tools on the floor and they ran out of the building, and it took a lot of convincing to get them to come back. And that was in broad daylight. So that's one of my favorite stories that was told to me right around the time that we started. But I also gave us an excuse to show you this fantastic photo of the Pantages that was undergoing a renovation to bring it back to its amazing luster. Amelia, you got something?
Well, I don't know if everybody knows, but you know, he lived in the Pantages as well.
our offices, our
Yeah.
offices were his apartment. Marty has informed me that apparently my office in the theater was part of his living room. So there's a big window in my office,
Yep.
and he could have sat there and had coffee and looked out on Hollywood and Argyle for all we know. But
And he had a screening room that is now an office as well, that was down the hall from our offices. Maybe one of these days, Benny, when we are able to do an open house, we could take some folks up into the offices and kind of show them around. It's all been built up now and changed around, but that's where he lived for a time.
I think anything is possible. Absolutely. Fingers
Absolutely.
crossed we can return to normal sometime soon. But now it is time for our raffle. So we are using a randomizing system to be able to pick winners at random. So while I am tabulating our winners, I'd like to throw it back to Tim Dolan for one more plug for what you've got coming up in the coming days. I'm going to throw it back to Alex afterwards. Tim, after you, buddy.
Hey guys, thank you so much for spending a little piece of your whatever day it is. Is it Tuesday? Whatever Tuesday maybe.
All day.
Sure. Where are we? Who are we? Great. Thanks for spending a little piece of your night with us, and I hope you enjoyed our haunted stories. Like I say, if you want to do a virtual tour tomorrow, we're doing our full thing through playbill.com/selects. We also have our merchandise online, and if you ever find yourself in New York City on the other side of this, certainly look us up, BroadwayUpClose.com. We'd love to have you with our green team on the sidewalks in New York City.
Love
Tim,
it.
thanks so much.
Thank you, Tim.
Oh.
Alex, do you want to give one more plug, sir?
Yeah, I really want to actually thank you two for setting this all up and having us here. It's been a lot of fun. And I echo Tim, I want to thank everybody for just coming and watching, especially I know it's Dodger night. And so if you're taking your time out to see us, you must really have been excited to hear us. So we have a lot of events going on, virtual tours, in-person tours, lectures. And so go to laconservancy.org. You'll find out what we're doing. And we have a big event on November 19th. We would love to have you.
Thank you, Alex. And Eric, thank you so much for your story as well. We can't wait to hear more from you. Last thank you's got to go to Marty Wiviet. Marty, we love you so much. Thank you so much for being such a big champion of the theater across both sides of the country and making theater in Southern California such a delight. And these stories that you've gotten, you helped us curate. We really appreciate it. Thank you so much.
And Eric, so great to have you here, Eric. Thank you so much.
Okay. All right. It is now the moment you've all been waiting for. We have selected winners at random. Now, I just want to give a quick heads up. Anybody who is watching this on the YouTube live stream, there is a slight delay. I don't want anybody to panic. We're going to call out the names, and we're not going to move on until we verify that someone is definitely here or not here, because as we said at the beginning, you've got to be present in order to win. Second thing I'll say before we call all the names, if your name is called and we verify you're here, we need you to stick around on this webinar or in YouTube Live so that we can collect your home address. If you don't want to give it on the YouTube Live chat, no problem. We've got your email address. We can email you separately so that you can send it to us. But the sooner that we can capture your mailing address, the sooner we can get you your prize. All right, Amelia, are we ready?
I think so. Benny, I let everybody on YouTube know that there was a slight delay, and everybody seems pretty cool.
Yeah, it's just, I'll just talk
what it is. We're
All
learning.
right.
We're learning. It's been great.
Yeah, we're learning. It's our first of many that we do. And by the way, we hope you all enjoyed this. We plan on doing many, many more. All right. Winner number one, let us know if you're here as soon as possible. Get ready to type. I'm looking for Dean Parker. Dean Parker, are you here? Anybody seen Dean?
It is Dodger night, so
it is indeed Dodger night.
I have those. We had over 300 people register, guys. So thanks all for doing this.
Yeah.
It might take us a minute to get through this list. Go ahead.
It will. All right, I'm going to move on to the next one. Dean, we're going to keep an eye out for you right now. Let us know if you're here. I'm looking for Leticia Macias. Leticia, are you here? I'm going to go down. Ready? I'm looking for Rosanna Word.
Oh, wow. All right.
Wow. Okay. We don't have a bite yet.
Nope.
Okay. Wendolyn
Take off these
Thompson.
glasses because I
No
can't.
problem. Wendolyn. Oh, you have eyes. Oh, Wendolyn Thompson. I just see Wendolyn Thompson raised her hand. Okay. We're going to do it this way.
Oh,
Thank
there's
you.
Rosanna Word.
You got Rosanna. Great. So we've got Rosanna. We've got Wendolyn. We've got two of who we called. I'm going to back up really quick. Do we have Leticia Macias? Do we have Leticia? Do we have Dean Parker? No? All right. I'm going to call the next one.
Dodgers are up 2-1, everybody. That's what they're telling me
Go
on
Dodgers.
over here on
Okay.
YouTube.
I'm going to call the next name. We've got 2 of the 5 packages covered. I've got next name, Priscilla Jara. Priscilla Jara, are you here? Raise your hand if you're here. No? All right.
Let's see.
No problem.
Wendolyn, we got Wendolyn. We know
Wendolyn,
that.
we got Rosanna. I'm
And
looking for
Rosanna.
Priscilla Jara. Okay, I'm going to move on to the next one. Here we go. I'm looking for Michelle Eisenberg. Michelle Eisenberg, are you here? Oh, I see a hand raised.
There's Michelle.
There's Michelle. We got Michelle. Fantastic.
So we have 3. We have 3.
three.
We have 5 prizes. So we've got 2
Yep.
more to go.
So one more time. One more last call for Priscilla Jara, Leticia Macias, Dean Parker. Okay, going to call another name. Ready? Brand new name. Here we go. Janet Knutson, Knutsen. Janet Knutson, are you there?
Wait, I think Janet might be.
It's all good.
Oh, wait, let's see here. Janet. Spell it for me, Benny. K-N.
Sure, yeah.
U-T.
Knutsen.
S-E-N. R.
Okay, I'm going to move down the line, okay? Looking for Lisa Lambert.
Oh, I got Lisa Lambert.
You got Lisa
Lisa's
Lambert?
here for sure.
Lisa's here?
There's Lisa. I remember Lisa. Okay.
I'm marking down Lisa. So that's 4 of the 5.
It's 4
Last
of the
call.
5.
Last call really quick for Janet Knutson or Priscilla Jara or Leticia Macias or Dean Parker. Okay, here we go. Calling a brand new name. You ready? Izette Barnett. I-Z-E-T-T. Barnett. B-A-R-N-E-T-T. Are you here, Izette? You see him in YouTube?
What was it again?
I-Z-E-T-T.
I-Z-E-T-T. I don't
That's
see
right.
that name.
It's all good. Moving on. We're looking for Anthony Lujan. L-U-J-A-N. Anthony Lujan. And I see a hand. Did I see a hand?
Did we see a hand?
Is that a fake hand?
I don't see. Let's
Anthony
see.
Lujan, are you here?
Oh, no.
No? Our panelists, thank you for your patience. Again, like we said, we're learning. We appreciate it.
Let's see
We
here.
got Anthony Lujan anywhere?
Not seeing Anthony.
No problem. We're moving on to the next one then. I'm looking for Dorothy Nichols.
Dorothy
Do you
Nichols.
have Dorothy Nichols anywhere?
Don't have.
We got one more prize. Oh my goodness. One more prize. Let's try Teresa Bazemore. Teresa Bazemore.
I don't see Teresa on YouTube.
Okay. I'm
Yeah.
calling Chris.
Oh,
You did?
He's here in the chat. Yeah.
In the chat?
there she is.
Yeah.
Yeah. So who
All
do we got?
right.
We got Teresa Bazemore.
Thanks, Alex, Eagle Eye.
Nice. All right, that's all 5, everybody.
All right, y'all.
We did it. If you are our winners, thank you so much for joining us, everybody. We're gonna leave you tonight with one of the biggest classic songs that a show that has played our theater multiple times. From everybody with Broadway and Hollywood, all of our panelists, Amelia, Marty, Tim, Eric, Alex, and myself, Ben, your ghost host. Thank you all very much. Have yourself a wonderful, wonderful night, a happy Halloween, and here's to a fantastic November. Thank you.